Okay, so hi, good afternoon, and welcome to everybody that's watching at home or wherever you're watching from. This will be our talk show, so to speak, on the master's specializations and some student experiences here at the Faculty of Archaeology, which is part of Leiden University. So throughout the next 40 or 50 minutes, depending, I'll help facilitate a conversation and a sort of question and answer session between some of our current students at the faculty. And throughout this interaction, for everybody watching live at home, you're invited to submit some questions or topics that you'd like to see addressed. And we'll try to get to those in about the last 10 minutes or so of this session. It just depends a wee bit. We'll try to pick questions that the answers apply to the broadest group of people. So if we don't quite get to your question, please don't feel too offended. And on top of this, once we wrap up the talk show, you're more than welcome to join the chat rooms and the video chats hosted by students and the student study advisor and still have your questions addressed that way. All right. And I'll talk more about that. I'll remind you again in the middle of the presentation and at the end. So that being said, I'll very quickly introduce myself, and then I'll let our student speakers introduce themselves. So my name is Rory, and I'm the sort of short notice stand-in host. Unfortunately, the student ambassador who was going to host this, Vera, took a nasty bump to the head and is at home with a concussion. So get well soon, Vera. So you've got me. I'm a former student of the Faculty of Archaeology. I graduated last month. And in archaeology, I like to apply archaeological mindsets to bigger considerations like sustainability or connecting archaeology and neuroscience and sociology and those sorts of things. I also used to work for the faculty, which is why everything I say from this point on is incredibly biased, and which is also why we have these 5 fantastic students to give their experiences instead of mine. So with me today, we have Jessica, Jet, Pasquinel, Richie, and Sveta. So Jessica, would you like to briefly start by telling us a wee bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, hello everyone. My name is Jessica. I'm originally from Spain. My background is in archaeology. I studied my bachelor's in the University of Barcelona, and right now I'm doing my master's in Leiden with a specialization of heritage and museum studies. And I started in February, and right now I'm still halfway through it. And my main interest is the correlation between digital archaeology and heritage.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Jet?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Jet. I'm from the UK. I originally did a bachelor's there in cartoon and comic arts, and then I transferred to doing another bachelor's in the Netherlands in archaeology. So I did my bachelor's here in Leiden and then transferred to doing the Masters of Science with a specialization in osteology, which is what I'm currently in the middle of. So it's just begun. We've just finished with the first part of the first semester. My main focus within osteology is heading towards forensic archaeology, but also looking at paleopathology and things like that.
Fantastic, thanks. Pasquinel?
Yeah, hi, I'm Pasquinel. I did my bachelor's in Rotterdam at the University of Applied Sciences in education. Last year I finished my pre-masters, and currently I'm in the World Archaeology track.
Brilliant. Richie, your turn.
I started at Saxion. After getting my propedeutics, I switched to the Bachelor of Leiden. I did my thesis on a Roman site in South Holland, and I'm currently doing applied archaeology here. I'm specializing in provincial Roman archaeology in the Netherlands, but at the same time, I'm also trying to get some Byzantine stuff going on. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, and lastly, Sveta, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm originally from Bulgaria. Currently, I'm in my second year of research master, and I specialize in digital archaeology. Before my master's, I also did my bachelor's at Leiden. And my main focus is network modeling, and my thesis topic is connected with creating a network model for tracing trade and connections in the Ottoman Empire.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, everyone. So I think for a lot of people watching at home, while the specializations and while everything else is super interesting, the first sort of barrier or obstacle you're faced with is obviously that transition from a bachelor system of some nature to a master's system. And Pasquinel and Richie, you've both studied in the Netherlands before, but not at Leiden University. And of course, Richie, you went on to do that, but in the primary stages. And Pasquinel, you did that education degree, and as I said, Richie has a Saxion background with Applied University. So maybe you can both speak to that transition a wee bit. Pasquinel, perhaps because you came from a sort of totally different background, maybe you can start.
Yeah, sure. I did the pre-master's program, which actually is a great way on transitioning from a completely different background into archaeology. They give you in a year's time multiple classes from the 3 years of bachelor's.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of an adjusting period, of course, because it's a completely different mindset, but it really paid off eventually with all the classes.
Yeah, fantastic. And when you signed up for the pre-master, I can imagine that obviously gives you a strong foundational level. But do you feel now that you're in the master's system that it was really essential and vital that you did that pre-masters? Is that something you're glad you've done?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's also nice that there's an option for pre-masters because a lot of universities don't have that option. Because it was either a 1-year pre-masters or an entire new bachelor for 3 years. Well, a year is better for me, at least.
Yeah. And Richie, what's your take on that from your experience?
I have to say that the switch from Saxion to Leiden was a bit, well, it was actually fine. It was just a complete different way of studying that I had to get accustomed to. And I did find my way around pretty quickly. At Saxion, it was far more aimed at getting like these hard facts into your head, while the university is more about the insight. You still have to put in the same amount of work, but the kind of information you have to produce at the end is different. I think this is also because I switched from a bachelor to a bachelor, but I think if you switch from the bachelor to the master, this experience will be the same.
Yeah. And you both felt that from your previous backgrounds, there were quite a few, base level academic skills that were transferable. So it wasn't like an entirely new alien environment, so to speak.
No, absolutely. There are a lot of skills that you pick up from earlier bachelor's, other degrees that you can still apply here.
Yeah, certainly.
Brilliant. And Jessica, I mean, you came from an archaeological background as well, but you completed your degree back in Barcelona. So how did you find that transition from BA to master's level in a new country in a sort of an arguably different academic environment? What was that like?
Well, it was very different in the sense that in Spain, at least the bachelor, the classes were mostly about having 1 hour or 2 hours lecture of the teachers spilling facts and you taking notes and then doing a final exam or an essay. But here in Leiden, the master at least, it's more you doing your own work at home, reading articles and having this work at home, and then in class is more about having discussions and everything. So that was different. And also switching to studying in English, that was a challenge for me. But coming from an archaeological background, it was not that different, or it was not that big challenge, I guess.
And I mean, that's obviously somewhat subjective, but the fact that the classes are more or comparatively quite independent and go home and do the reading and we'll come and discuss it. Is that something that you enjoyed in that transition, or was it a bit
I do because I feel like it gives you more free thinking. Like you can give your own critical approach to the topic, and then in class you can discuss that with your colleagues and the professors. So it gives you a lot of different perspectives as well, rather than just what the text says.
Right,
I do like that.
I'm glad to hear. And Jet and Sveta, I mean, you've both completed your bachelor's degree here in the Faculty of Archaeology in Leiden. So I guess, first of all, why did you decide to stay? not that you shouldn't have, but why did you decide to stay? And how did you experience that sort of in-house transition from FDA bachelor to FDA master? And maybe Jet, we can start with you.
Yeah, I found the whole transition was incredibly easy coming from bachelor's in Leiden to doing a master's in Leiden, because you're kind of familiar with how the system in Leiden works. And it helps that, I had already done the osteology seminar thing in the bachelor's. So I was familiar there. I'd done internships there. So I was working through the summer as well in the labs there. So I was very familiar with everything already. So for me, it made a lot of sense to just add an extra year on and get a master's degree in an area that I was already very familiar with. I had all my friends there. I'd been involved with the student association subgroups and things. So for me, it made a lot of sense to continue doing my master's here. And the whole process was incredibly easy as well, with exactly what Jessica said, with the way that there's a lot of discussion that goes on in class. And that was very much encouraged in the bachelor's as well, about how if you read something, you think critically about it, and then you're very much encouraged to discuss that. And that's the same, I think, through all the classes that I know of. And I very much enjoy that style.
I'm glad, because I know that some people have, inaccurate, but still, some people have a perception of the sciences within archaeology as quite absolute and sort of unyielding. But so that level of interpretation and discussion and the class as being subject to change is also present in the scientific aspects of archaeology.
Very much so, yeah. I mean, isn't that the whole saying of you spend 5 years trying to prove something right and the next 5 trying to prove something wrong? It's never completely solid. You're always trying to pick holes in it and improve things. And the same goes for everyone else's work, because how else do you improve and come closer to what you want to know?
No, exactly. Brilliant, thanks. And Sveta?
Yeah, for me, again, the transition was very smooth to my research, the transition from bachelor to research master. I mean, of course, I started my master last year, which was during the lockdown and the corona times, so it was different than my bachelor's. But now that the university started opening up again, I really felt at home, because it's something familiar. And yeah,
I'm glad to hear it. And why specifically did you opt for the research master? And do you feel that transition itself is a bit unique, or is that pretty much uniform with everybody else's experiences? Or?
Well, yeah, I decided to choose the research master because, unlike the normal master, which is 1 year, the research master is 2 years, and you get the opportunity to do much more courses, and to gain the most out of university. So yeah, since I still want to continue in academia in the future, I decided that the research master would be my best choice to do that. And for now, I'm really happy with my choice. But yeah, I think the transition is quite similar to a normal master, because we still share a lot of same courses. Of course, we have some extra courses for research master students, but we don't really. It's still the community feeling. Research masters, we're again one community, so I think the experience is pretty much similar.
Everything's very intertwined. Like, most of the research masters will still be taking classes with the regular masters, and
exactly, yeah.
And for those of you that aren't Sveta, I mean, do you also feel, because I mean, Sveta said, I have the 2-year time period now, and I can really sort of invest in what I want to do. Do you feel like you can still do that in the 1-year master program, in as much as you want to?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely more of a time crunch, I think, with the 1-year masters. But I think one of the things I quite like about Leiden is that if you do want to add the extra time, you can upgrade to doing a research master's, or you can keep with the 1-year time crunch. It's definitely going to be more, I want to say, busy in the sense that you've got to fit everything within 1 year.
Yeah.
But there is always the option of taking extra time, even on your regular masters, taking an extra half year or whatever. Or if you can get the grades, then upgrading. Just it's not. It's still depending on what you want, but you can switch to doing a research masters.
So
Yeah, and there is flexibility.
Yeah.
For instance, I wanted to do an internship, but that's in the summer, and I want my thesis to. I want the research I'm doing it during the internship to use in my thesis.
Yeah.
So I have the flexibility to extend the 1 year master for half a year maybe to get everything done, do everything during the summer, and then finish up my my thesis.
Fantastic. And you feel like that's a do you feel like that's a sort of facilitated thing, or do you sort of get the vibe that the teachers aren't so happy with that, or how does that?
Oh no, it's completely facilitated. Yeah, it was actually in agreement with my my thesis supervisor.
Oh, brilliant. So you don't sort of feel what's it called, like left out for the dogs then?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not. No.
No, I'm glad. So now that we've covered that, I think sorry, there's a big truck going by. Now that we've covered that, I wanted to touch on the specializations, because everybody has their preconceived notions of archaeology, and obviously a degree, regardless of your specialization, has to build up a certain amount of foundational knowledge, and then you can specialize as you want. But I'm wondering, at what stage into your degrees did you sort of realize, okay, this is what I thought going into it, and this is what the course advertised, and this is actually the type of archaeologist that I'm going to be, or this is the type of academic thinker I'm going to be, when this course finishes? At what point were the objectives clear to you as students? Is that still something you're figuring out, or was it clear from the get-go?
For me, it was I'm always interested in a lot of different subjects, and the global archaeology program track really facilitates that. There's a lot of customization with the classes you can take.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, I'm focusing on the Americas, but I also have the opportunity to take a class in underwater archaeology and Near East class. So for me, it's really the customization and the different pathways you can take to who you want to become and what you want to specialize in.
And do you think that helps the path that you're trying to go down? As in, is that additional knowledge that's just interesting for an archaeology student, or can you really utilize that from different regions and different specializations to try and spearhead?
No, I think it really helps you eventually in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you want to do some comparative work, it's always good to know more from different regions than just your own. At least that's how I look at that.
Fantastic. Richie?
Yes. One second. Yeah, so the courses are in applied archaeology are very broad. You can pick whatever you like. I picked quite a diverse bunch of courses that are not all related to what I want to specialize in, but they all have a function or a use in my course program as I see it. So I do think this helps if you want to formulate your your specialization. But there's still room to broaden your horizons as well. And I agree with Pasquinel that it really helps sometimes if you, if you broaden your horizons and look at different periods and different locations. That really is useful, I think.
Fantastic. Does anybody else have something to say to that point?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's there's a few things that are optional as electives and things within the masters that definitely have practical applications. In the bachelor's at Leiden, we did a course on GIS, graphical information system, which is, of course, has a very practical use. And in a master's, they offered courses in Python programming and things like that, which can then be applied to so many different things, regardless of your specialization. But also having other electives where you can get a wider overview of different aspects and locations, different disciplines within archaeology, while still seeing if you can apply your own specialization to those areas.
Fantastic. And just for the people watching at home, again, there should be a clickable menu and a column in which you can ask questions and topics that you'd like to see addressed at the end of this. So I suppose, sorry, unless anybody else had something they wanted to say about specializations, Sveta or Jessica.
No.
Well, I agree with what everyone has said, that Leiden University gives you this opportunity to expand your horizons. I'm doing heritage and museum studies, but every elective course I've chosen is different, which give you a lot of wide perspective on how you can combine heritage studies with other disciplines. So
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Okay, let's go. But no, yeah, I agree with everyone. And yeah, from personal experience, even I've been taking I have taken some courses which at first seem like they don't have anything in common with my interest. Like, for example, right now I'm taking this course for Roman imperialism, and I'm interested in the Ottoman Empire. So at first they have no connection, but actually the mechanisms, for example, behind the empire, all the empires are the same. So you can combine from different periods, approaches that are used in different periods to your own period. And I mean, yeah, you can exactly broaden your horizons and stuff. And I personally, my specialization, I'm doing it mostly on my own. And meantime, I'm taking everything I can from all the other courses and I apply them to my research. So.
Yeah, I think with the sciences, well, because there's just me for sciences, I think, but there's botany and there's zoology and stuff like that, and they're all kind of quite closely, I wouldn't say intertwined, but like we rely on each other in the faculty. Like the zoology and osteology labs are very close by, so that's quite nice. And in terms of what you can specialize in within those specializations, obviously I can't really speak to zoology and botany, but at least within osteology, there are areas of interest that the faculty really goes heavy on, that they have a lot of information on. They've got a lot of specimens and things like that. But even if your interests lie outside of that, there's always going to be an option to figure out a way to get to doing what exactly you want to do.
And I suppose on the topic of the facilities and the labs and things like that, I mean, so for example, Richie's doing applied. If you decided, okay, my main focus is applied, but I really want to actually analyze this material assemblage or this, you know, these plant specimens or whatever else, is that something that you feel free to go and do, or is it very much, you know, you should have signed up for the sciences, too bad, too late, or how does that work?
Well, that's actually a point I wanted to also get into, because even though like the courses are not always very numerous that are in line with your specialization, there are always other ways you can specialize yourself if you put in the extra work and time if you want to. This was already true for the bachelor. It's especially true also for the master. I did the honors track when I was in the BA, and I got to do a lot of extra researches that I would not have access to if I didn't do that. And it's basically the same for the masters. I'm not doing the honors for the masters, but I took an extra course that took me to Rome to study Byzantine archaeology in Rome. So there's plenty of options if you want to get deeper into your specialization. Yeah, it's just not always in the standard curriculum. That's the only thing. But it's great that Leiden offers that opportunity.
Has anybody else followed sort of extracurricular things like that, or was it just?
Yeah, I also went to the same course as him in Rome.
That's fantastic. I suppose as well, I mean, in addition to being a nice sort of non-typical style of education there, because you're out of the faculty and you're doing all these other things, it must also feel like a pretty fun way to start building a network. I mean, networks are important for archaeologists, perhaps more so than in many other experiences. So it's nice to see that that's sort of built from the ground up as well. Did you two know each other before you went to that Rome course, by the way?
No.
We had a course together, but we
Yeah.
didn't really speak.
We didn't have
Jessica,
much
you-
contact at least, but
We'll move on. That's fine. So, and I'm just getting a message from our moderator here to remind the people watching at home that this is again for mostly shared experiences and to get a bit of an insight as to what it's like to be a student following the master's programs and the certain specializations. And if you have any questions at all about specific admission queries or things like that, you can ask those right after in the group sessions with the study advisor. So don't worry about that. Sorry, but we'll move on here. And it's a bit of a throwaway question, but it's always nice to hear, I think, is so far anyway, what's been your favorite class and why have you enjoyed it?
Okay, I can go first. I've mentioned it before about the Python programming, but I really loved that because I've not done any programming stuff before, and it was so cool and so interesting and something to definitely continue with as very much an introductory sort of thing. But also we've started with our specialization classes as of this week. So that's probably going to be, I'm biased, but that's going to be on my favorite list. But as of one's completed so far, Python course was super, super chill.
And do you feel like that's just interesting in regards to archaeology, or do you like that as also an independent sort of skill that you now have?
Both, but also I didn't realize just how much it could be applied to archaeology and how much it could just make, if not anything else, my life easier when it comes to organizing catalogs and data entry and working things out. Just, it opened up a whole new skill set of things that I didn't realize and how it would really make my life easier.
So did you start that course with no prior experience on?
No, completely zero experience, and it's still, it's a whole new it's a whole new programming language. So my experience is still like minuscule, but it's been great fun.
I'm glad. Well, your experience is much more than mine, I can tell you that much. But somebody else on their favorite classes so far?
Well, yeah, me as a digital nerd, I would say my favorite classes are the classes connected with digital archaeology.
Sure.
For example, in our bachelor's, we did spatial analysis with QGIS, database management with Access, and so on. In my master's, I haven't had a chance yet to follow a course for digital archaeology, but next semester I will follow an R programming language course.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Brilliant. And
Last year during the bachelor's, we had Imperial Powers, at least during my pre-masters, which was really cool. A lot of different regions were compared with each other, and we looked at how empires form and how they operate and everything. So that was pretty cool.
nice.
For me, I would say here in Leiden, of course, A Global Revolution with Michael John Versulis, because we talk about the concept of globalization, but from antiquity. And that's something that I've never really had in consideration. When you think of globalization, you always think contemporary era, but not antiquity. And it made me reanalyze and rethink how different cultures were interconnected and that the influence between each other. And for everyone who's watching, I recommend to take that course.
Free promotion. There you go.
I just realized I maybe misheard. Did you say favorite moment or favorite class originally?
Favorite class.
And Richie.
yeah, my favorite class was the Archaeology of the Crusades. I really like the Byzantine world, of course, and the Crusades play a vital role in the whole Byzantine story. So it was really interesting to get a perspective on that.
I'm glad to hear it. And then we'll head down here because I think not surprisingly, perhaps your favorite classes. I think I could have picked your specializations from hearing about your favorite classes. But I'm kind of curious. Like I asked with Jet, if these skills are then applicable, just within your branch of archaeology or archaeology in general, or beyond that. Um, and maybe it's a bit of a hard-hitting question for the middle of the day, but what makes you, as archaeologists, then marketable in a job market? Not per se as individuals, because I'm sure you're all fantastic. I know you're all fantastic, but in terms of the degree that you're going to do here, or you will have finished soon, what about it specifically makes you feel confident, as a hireable person? Not to breed any existentialism amongst you, but
Okay, I guess I can start.
Hmm.
Well, in addition to all the skills I get in applying digital methods to archaeology, I feel this program, the Research Master program, especially is preparing still well for working with people and with deadlines, especially because I mean, when you have a deadline, you have a strict deadline, and it's on you whatever you do to make it happen.
Mhm.
Of course, there's some exemptions, but in the Research Master, I don't know. I guess I can talk about this now. There is this teaching assistance part of the Research Master,
Yeah, of
in
course.
which students, well, depending on the professor and the course, students help out the professors with setting up tutorials, organizing some stuff, leading practicals and stuff like that. So for me, this was actually one of my favorite parts about Research Master, because I really had fun organizing and teaching and assisting and teaching bachelor students. I think this really helped me first understand the material better, even because because I was doing practical work like field techniques. It really helped me understand how to work with all the devices better, all the methods we can apply in the field, and dealing with drama or people who have trouble understanding what's going on, or they don't want to work, or so on. So I think it was a really good experience for me, and I can definitely see how I can apply that in my future job, or whatever I do.
Yeah, I completely understand. That was when I did my degree. That was also some of my favorite parts. The best and the strangest parts always came from the teaching
Yeah.
assistants. So I'm glad that hasn't changed. And from some of the rest of you, what makes you hireable?
Well, I think similar sort of thing of it's a lot of learning from different areas, picking up different skills. So you kind of become a jack of all trades in terms of what you can do. In terms of osteology stuff, I know that at least from my experience, the internship opportunities that I had were brilliant. So by the end of the bachelor's, I'd had the opportunity to work with a variety of different contexts, cremated remains as well, which was really cool. And I kind of did, usually I think especially in osteology, you start with fully formed human remains so you can get an idea of what they actually look like. And then as it gets more difficult, you get more and more fragmented. And I ended up doing it the opposite way around, where I started with cremated remains and then spent the whole summer pretty much on an internship cataloging commingled remains, which are again very broken up. So you get a lot of practical experience just in cataloging all of those. So in terms of hands-on experience, the opportunities for that are pretty good. There's a lot of opportunities for internships, I think, if you ask for them, if you look for them and things like that, so you can rank up in experience, which is pretty vital, especially in all disciplines. I think with archaeology, ranking up in experience is pretty vital. But yeah, and the multitude of skills that you pick up, the experience that you get, and also the confidence you can have in your in the faculty members that are here to help you in terms of the advice that they'll give, the context that they have, the context that you can make here, are all going to help, I think, in the future. Hope so, at least.
Yeah, and I mean, I can imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I can imagine, particularly when you're working with human remains, or also Jessica, when you're working with heritage and museums, that you have to be quite sensitive to this sort of ever-changing world of ethics and morality and how you handle these things. And I can also imagine that must translate into making you slightly more sensitive to being able to pick up situations that apply across various studies or various career paths as well.
Yeah, I mean, I presume it's the sort of same thing with heritage, but as you start and just continue in your area of interest, your specialization, that kind of sensitivity or empathy with the people that you're working with kind of is built in automatically. It becomes kind of an innate part of it. So then if you're confronted with something that doesn't see that, if they've been treating remains poorly, which can happen either accidentally or through carelessness, hopefully not intentionally, it can be very confronting where you're suddenly confronted with people outside of your specialization who haven't been, I guess, academically brought up in an area where that kind of this kind of thinking, the kind of empathy and sensibility that you're supposed to have around these things is so innate to the people, especially at least within Leiden faculty. I've always had that, where if you're sort of then confronting people who don't think that way, it's sort of like a, huh?
Yeah, I can imagine. Jessica, is that also something that you can relate to?
Yeah, definitely. In my track, one of the main focus is inclusiveness, ethics, and how to deal with people, how to make sure everyone is included with either in the heritage or museums as well, how to be representative, and yeah, there's a lot of also engagement with local communities. We talk about that a lot, and native communities. So yeah, it gives you a very sensitive perspective on how to deal with difficult topics.
Yeah, I think especially because both of our disciplines have a pretty poor history when it comes to dealing with a lot of these areas. You very much get the feeling of, we're kind of hyper vigilant about not repeating the past and trying to make better on that and do better in the future and set up ways to ensure that stuff like that never happens again within your discipline or with any of the people that you meet within or outside of your discipline.
Yeah. Richie, is that something you can relate to as sort of being the on the ground man, so to speak? Because I mean, you've done Saxion and you've done commercial. I mean, you're also doing applied. Is that, you feel that way at all?
Like that, the interaction with the people outside our field, you mean, and the public? Or
For example, in as much as the skills and the things you have to learn and sort of skills you hone as an archaeologist and your specific type of archaeologist, does that also translate into bits of the job that maybe people wouldn't consider?
Oh, right. So back to the main point then. Yeah. No, okay. Yeah. Certainly, because I mean, it's applied archaeology, and basically you're a field worker, and anything you do in the field has overlap with other fields. So what you see with a lot of people who studied at Saxion is that they end up doing something either in ICT or they become surveyors, so landmeters, people who work with GPS, RTS, that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a broader application for your career path if you would like that. You're not basically stuck with you're being trained for an archaeologist and that's it. So
Nice. And Sveta or Pascal, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Well, especially on the part that Jed mentioned a few minutes back about internships. And I guess it also ties into the approachability of professors. They're always willing to help you look for one.
Yeah.
For example, I emailed a professor and he gave me a lot of people to email even outside of the university with maybe collaborative projects with, for example, I forgot which university, but an American university in the Yucatan in Mexico. So they're always willing to help you and to give opportunities, or at least help you find them.
Is that something that the rest of you experience as well? Because I mean, obviously every country is different, and every municipality and every university is different, but that concept of there not being a very strict hierarchy and that the teachers are quite engaging, is that a universal experience, or is Pascal talking rubbish? Or
No, I completely agree. I think it's very true. If you approach any of the faculty members, I've never approached a faculty member and not with a question or anything, and not have them be either extremely helpful and friendly, and like they're very aware of everything, both in their own discipline and in the faculty and everything. So they're, at least in my experience as well, always willing to help, even if they don't have the direct answer immediately. Always willing to help you find the answer. You just need to ask.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Before Corona, especially, I just rarely sent emails to people. I just went to their office, knocked on their door. They're very approachable. They're very open. You can always ask questions. They're very passionate about their subjects, so they're very willing to help you with anything.
nice. And is that something that you had heard about Leiden before or expected, or was that kind of a surprise to get here? Or
To me, it was a surprise. I had this very hierarchical vision of a university, where it was very formal and elitist. But yeah, it turned out to be, well, very approachable, just regular people with a passion.
yeah.
I mean, for me, coming from Barcelona, all my professors were very approachable, so I kind of expected that. And it's true that all of them are very passionate about what they're doing, and if you ask them, they will help you with anything you need.
I'm glad.
Yeah, they're even willing to help you in their own time. For example, there was we wanted to have a better understanding of the Mesoamerican archaeology, but there's only so much time to discuss topics like that in a 7-week course. So one of the professors actually organized this discussion group where we read papers and then discuss everything in our own time after hours, which is great.
And I suppose the culmination of the whole degree lies in the thesis, and obviously your supervisor or the staff members being approachable and well, baseline useful is a huge part of that. So how do you all feel about that process, the whole thesis process? Have you started it? Is it something that makes you nervous, or do you feel quite secure in doing it? Everybody looks a bit nervous, but
I think that's to be expected, though.
Okay. Well, I picked my thesis topic maybe last year. It wasn't something that the professor gave me, and I said okay. I just one of my supervisors, because I have 2 supervisors. One of my supervisors was my BA supervisor, and I shared with her that okay, I'm interested in the Ottoman period. So is there something I can do with that? Because yeah, and she was like, yeah, you could, for example, I have this material. We could do something with it. I know that you're interested in digital archaeology. We can do something with that as well. So it was a lot of meetings and talkings between my 2 supervisors, and we finally, I mean, I felt like I was the leading part in this decision, what my thesis topic would be. Nobody chose it for me.
Yes.
So
did it still feel like a step up for you, having the same bachelor supervisor be involved, or did it feel like a sort of rinse and repeat? Or
no, actually, no. I think my experience is different. I mean, my bachelor thesis was one thing. It felt pretty easy compared to now, but now it's something that it feels like my a bit more personal project, like because I know what I want to do. It's a different feeling, I guess. I don't know how to explain it exactly. But
It feels more like your own thing, an independent.
Yeah, exactly,
research.
more like your own thing, independent, and you really want to do good because it matters to you, not for your professors only, but for you. That's the most important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very nervous about it as well, but we have a tutorial group with one of the professors, and he helps us, and we discuss once every 2 weeks what we've done and what we could do, what we need to pay attention to, possible pitfalls and stuff like that. And actually, it helped calm me down and get a better view of what needs to be done.
So there's also that sense then of not just academic support of go here and use this book. It can also make you feel slightly more grounded in what you're doing. What you want. I'm glad.
Yeah, I don't have my thesis topic sorted out yet, but in terms of academic support, it's much like I've not even with my bachelor's, it wasn't here's this, do that. Because I chose to do my bachelor's thesis in osteology, it was very much more of a you do or you get, because it was during COVID time. So we were using digital collections for their catalogs and databases a lot of time, but you were still using that data and coming to your own interpretations and doing all of that jazz. So, but in terms of help for the master's thesis, it's a lot of, okay, what are your areas of interest? What do you want to get out of this? How can we help? What kind of areas or topics? Are there any new skills that you want to pick up? So there's a lot to consider, but the thesis supervisors, everyone is very helpful in trying to like encourage you to find your area and find something that you can do within your time frame while still getting the most out of it possible.
Yeah. And Richie and Jessica, is that also something that you've experienced, or?
I haven't started yet. So I got in contact with one professor, and she was very helpful, and she guided me a lot through my topic. I still have to properly define it and submit my proposal, so I don't have much to say about it.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm in the stage of data collection. I have to say that it's indeed very, you have a lot of freedom, but there's also a lot of independence, and you really have to put in a lot of work yourself. But it's also very dependent on what kind of supervisor you have, because some supervisors apparently are very strict and others are very lenient. And so, yeah, I think so far my process has been mostly enjoyable. Sometimes I get stuck, and it might take a while before you get your answer, but eventually you'll get there, and I mean, it's fine. It's a good it's a good process.
Right. And then I have one more sort of conversation prompt that I'm just kind of curious about for you guys, and then we can move on to the questions that the audience have sent in. But in terms of the whole interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, whatever disciplinary nature of archaeology, which of the specializations or which of the tracks that you have all talked about today would you like to try? So, I mean, if you're doing digital archaeology, but you've heard Richie talk about applied archaeology, you think, oh God, that's the one for me. What do you think would benefit your thesis or you as an archaeologist in the future? Which sort of specialization would you like to dabble in the future?
I think the digital things are really appealing to me. I produce a lot of digital information in the field, but I don't really process it that much behind the desk, and it would really be fun for me to sit behind a computer for a difference and do a bit more of the actual processing of the data that I collect.
Nice.
For me, I would say, well, I'm already following a digital archaeology course because I'm very interested in this area. But if I had to choose something else, it would be global archaeology as well.
For me, oh no, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Are
you gonna go or am I gonna go?
I'll go. For me, probably be applied. go more into the field, have a better understanding of how everything works and stuff like that. I think that would be good knowledge to have eventually.
I agree, actually. I'd probably also go for applied. I mean, I wouldn't step away from osteology. It's where I am very much at home. But going into the field and doing osteology as well is very jazzy. So practical applications of that I would 100% be up for.
Yeah, I just spent 10 weeks digging up skeletons and measuring them in, so I can confirm it.
Yeah, I agree with Jason Pascal. Yeah, I mean, applied, I think should go for applied archaeology too, because of the practical skills you gain. And
the fun of it.
And the fun and the people. So yeah, it would be a nice experience, different than sitting behind a desk. So yeah.
It's a big win for applied archaeology too. Right, then we'll move on to some of the questions that the audience have asked in the last 10 minutes. And I'll have to read them from a phone because, you know, the magic of working from home and technology. There's one I wanted to start with, which I thought is quite an important point. So to the five of you, would you say that the age matters for master's students, or is it varies a lot? Or are the people quite young because this person is slightly worried that they'll be old compared to everyone else?
I mean, I think
No,
I'm
I don't think
one
so.
of the oldest
I chip
here.
in there because I'm
so-
30 years old and a master's student.
Oh,
Age
I'm
is
only
no
a year
problem.
younger than that, so
I'm 26, so
Yeah.
I'm 25, so yeah.
oh, I'm the
I wouldn't
baby
be too-
here. But it doesn't matter.
the
Yeah.
ages for the master students range a lot.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
are quite a few who are in similar to Richie and I in the sort of like 29, 30 to 28 kind of gap, and then it goes all the way down to, you know, like Sveta, the youngest of the group.
No, okay, I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, that's also, you know, granted I'm biased, that's also something I can confirm as well, that even years ago when I was doing started my research master degree, the ages were very, very varied. And yeah, well, what are your plans for the future? And do you think there are many opportunities for master's degree graduates?
Within the faculty itself, or just what happens afterwards?
Opportunities in general afterwards. Once you graduate and go off into the big bad world, ambitions and your awareness of the opportunities that are out there. Is it all hopeless or?
Oh, I don't think anyone is sort of giving anyone false hope. The job market is pretty awful all around at the moment. But so far as, at least from my experience of talking to people in the faculty, everyone's pretty realistic about what you can expect, but also very keen on giving you advice on sort of like where are the best places to go. Okay, what can you do in the meantime between finding a job or when you're applying to PhD positions and things like that? What can you do in the meantime to get experience? Where can you work? And what do you need to do to get work? Whether it's doing more freelance archaeology stuff or also being realistic about the fact that if you want experience and opportunities in jobs, you probably will have to be prepared to travel for them.
Yeah.
And you may have to work jobs that aren't necessarily archaeology related 100% in the meantime in order to get there. But it's not an impossibility.
Is that something the rest of you feel as well?
Yeah, a bit yes, a bit no, I guess. It really depends. Because I'm doing applied archaeology, of course. I also work in contract archaeology. I started working in contract archaeology in my BA. And my experience is that if you go to an internship in the Netherlands and you really shine, you really do your best, and you're not just there sitting your time, and you really show that you're interested and have a passion, you can really start building a network and a name. And it is really your good name within archaeology that is your most valuable asset in the end. Yeah, I feel that if you have a good name, there probably is work for you somewhere if you do your best and look for it.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
and also you'll probably end up with more internship opportunities.
Yeah.
And maybe even
Which will then
people
grow.
reaching out to you.
Yeah.
Archaeology is a really small world. So
Yes, just don't be
to go
afraid to
and
put yourself
be
out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I can
And
imagine.
if you're just insufferable, people will know, and it won't help
They will
you.
tell everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
you're insufferable, please leave the stream. And but I mean, I can also imagine that concept of, you know, put yourself out there and sort of ride the wave of your name might be a bit scary to some people, but the impression I've got from listening to you, you know, and having been there and worked there as well, is that the classes and the community there and the staff and the whole atmosphere sort of helps build you up as an individual, as an academic, and gives you a certain degree of confidence to go out and forge that name for yourself. Is that something that you can see yourself in, or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, certainly.
It's also very much each of us will have our own specific areas of interest that we are really passionate about. And talking about those with people in your field or adjacent to your field, they're going to pick up on your enthusiasm. And that's kind of going to become what you're known for eventually. I mean, if that's what you go in for. So then people who know that you're interested in that specific area might come to you. They go, oh, so-and-so is really interested in this.
Yeah.
So we're going to use them, or we're going to ask them to do this job, things like that. So just be honest about what you're enthusiastic about and don't hold back.
Yeah. Be honest and don't be insufferable. They're the main takeaways.
Yeah.
It's okay. One of the last questions then I have here is, hello everyone. I have a bachelor's degree in history and archaeology, and I'm considering to apply for a master's program in archaeology. Good choice. My main desire is to become more qualified to study materials from excavations and be able to give conclusions or draw conclusions on those. Is the research master the most suitable choice for me?
I think there was also a research track, material studies, right?
Yeah, I think so.
This is also, yeah, I think it also focuses on, well, but studying material for excavation. But I mean, research master would also be an option, I guess, if you want to.
You'll certainly have more time.
Exactly, have more time to get into the material and more time to, yeah, get the most of it.
Mm-hmm. But then, if for whatever reason the research master wasn't to work out for this individual, or for people watching at home, you still think this is something they could achieve through the standard master's program?
Yeah, I think so.
And maybe through, as we talked about, extra courses or some extra time or internships and these sorts of things.
Yeah, I don't think there is a very strict, the difference between the different masters. The borders are not solid, so you can pick courses from other masters. You can make your own master, kind of, in a way. So you have plenty of opportunities. You just need to,
and the faculty certainly has the instruments that you need for material analysis.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I can see we're almost out of time. So one more quick question. There was somebody wanting to do a focus on osteology, but hadn't had courses in that in their bachelor. And sort of what are their possibilities there? And I think the first thing that would jump out to me is maybe that pre-master system, if that's at all possible.
Yeah, pre-masters will be good, because I think to do osteology, you do need some kind of background. The pre-masters is a good option. You can try for the full masters, but I think they do require some kind of background in osteology, because with the specialization, once you start, it's pretty much day one and you're handling remains. You have to have some kind of background in anatomy. There is also a massive exam called the Bellringer test that you have to do step one, which is you have about 30 seconds to analyze bones. So yeah, I would say go for the pre-masters ideally. And you'll also just learn a lot more that way as well.
Fantastic. Okay, then I've just seen that we should wrap this up. I hope it's not already slightly too late. So for everybody watching the stream, thanks so much for your attention. Don't forget that there's more specific videos about the master's programs on the information market on the platform. And don't forget that if your question hasn't been answered, or if you've got more questions, or if you just want to chat more, you can head on to chat with the students and the study advisor during the next 2-hour session using the chat box in the right-hand corner. And you can also use the video call to talk with students about their experiences further. So go to the Archaeology Information Market through the menu of this platform and click on video call. And of course, thanks very much to the five of you for lending your expertise and enthusiasm. Thanks to Vera, the ambassador, for setting this up, and thanks for Micah for setting it up as well, and for the communications department that have helped facilitate this live stream. So good luck with your choices and your future, and goodbye, everybody. Thanks.